Well, and all this was just from the prompt of the Wild West, right? And, like, already there's so many things we could do with this, but I like what you're doing there because already seeing that there's a pair and then the lone one, it feels like you can tell kind of who's the good guy and who's the bad guy, right? Because it's like they're buddies and this one's just coming in by himself to cause trouble.
Yeah. And so then we can have in the second one, we can have the frilly lizard kind of like putting his frills out, and
Mhm.
then we can have like, um, this is where we could have, Pip kind of like bellowing out
Yep.
his his thing, um, and we can have, um, eh, I guess maybe we could even have like a scenario where, we now see them both like, what if we actually see, okay, so what if we actually see, now they're both like, kind of like
In
in their each
full,
other's
like
faces,
yeah.
right? Like, just like, "Ah, ah," and then we have, to make it a little bit more comical, we now see, Leonard kind of walking between the 2 of them, and
Yeah,
then
he's gonna sneak over.
we can have like a scenario where, uh, he bites his tail, right?
Yeah. I do think there's something really fun about that, and Paul made a comment as well, loving the frilly lizard running away in the last panel. I do think there's something really funny about seeing this tough guy, that was all frill and no substance, like, take off and be like, "I'm outta here. You guys can have the town, I'm done."
Yeah, and then you could even have like, you know, like a little bit of a deflated, um, tip going, like kinda going, "Oh."
Yeah, "Oh, I guess we're good.
Right, yeah,
Problem
and then
solved."
he's running away. Right, so there's that world too, so
Yeah,
we've got the, um, so right away, we're in the action with that
yep,
first panel. Second panel, so the conflict being, like we've got, some kind of standoff between these 2 lizards, right? They're both, kind of like prostrating themselves,
yep,
and then we have the reaction of the frilly lizard, and he's just, so we see a full action shot of him, right?
mhm,
And then we've got a reaction, close up reaction of Tip kind of, you know,
yeah,
doing the same thing, and then we pull back and we just see them. This is the comedic moment. We just see them like screaming at each other as like, Leonard has now gotten off, of the back of Tip, as they're both screaming, and we could just even have like, roar as a, uh, so like we can have some kind of raw, and then we can have R, and then now it's raw, like that kind of thing going on here. And then we can have that like, moment actually before, he bites. I think that actually, as he's, maybe he can be looking up, and we can actually have like, we can still hear the R
mhm. They
going.
totally ignored him, right? Like, and, Paul's mentioned as well, but the little antennas down as he slinks past, like he's trying to make himself as small as possible. It's also a really funny visual. It's like these 2 being huge and fighting, and then the little guy's like, "Nobody over here to see. Don't mind me."
Yep, and then we have yipe, 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 like
Yeah.
thing with like the tail, being bent or something.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and then, yeah, like a very deflated, uh,
Yeah, like, "Oh, we're good."
and then we
Yeah, like, I think that could be a fun visual of, like, he hasn't actually bit yet, but you see, like, the big like, ready to be, like like, what he's about to do, um, and you know that they have no idea what's going on. They're so involved in their fight that they didn't even realize that, the savior is actually en route.
yeah. Well, and so it kind of, I think it's just a matter of like, how quickly can we get into the action? How
Mhm,
close up can we get into it? Right, so we're setting up the stage for, um like what's happening with these, um, 2 lizards that are obviously like, very alpha, uh,
mhm.
pacing around, and, you can, and people all around. So this is where this is the establishing,
Yes.
of the town, right? So that we can see that it's like some kind of a Western scenario. And then maybe
Mhm.
in the background, you can see like the mountains or something like that. So we have a setting. Um, yeah. So we'd have people kind of cowering around or something like that. And then you have the first character, doing, so if there was some kind of like, you know, dialogue. I don't even know if you need dialogue, but there could be like, okay, ready, draw, or something like that.
Yeah.
We've got the one character rah, and then the other one R, and then they're screaming, right? And then we could have, if you wanted to. Here's the great thing. This could just be sound effects. Like it could just be. I don't know if you need to have any
I
kind
actually think it's stronger with sound effects than dialogue just because I think the visuals do a really strong storytelling that I feel like the dialogue would just be kind of telegraphing what the visuals are doing because of the kind of story that it is, right? Like I think there could be like a little banner on the top, like once upon a time in the lizard town of whatever, or something like that, like,
of.
the like something that just kind of put us in place. But I think beyond that, you get from the way that it sort of broke down what's happening with them kind of going back and forth and drawing essentially, and then the little guy being like, "Nope, I'm gonna take care of this myself."
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I like this one. This one adds a bit of a comedic element to it.
Yeah.
It gives it, it gives a little bit of um, the first action, I think, where it's a close enough up of the characters. And here's the thing though, when you're talking about good guys and bad guys here, in this situation, we don't really know who the good guy and bad guy is because the two main, the aggro ones, the alpha ones are kind of just like posturing, and we've
Mhm.
got, a very kind of almost mild, quiet creature. So you can almost say that maybe Leonard is the hero in this scenario because we don't know if like this is just a thing that um Pip gets into. Like every town, Pip starts a problem. Like we like in this, if
He
we're
runs his
talking,
mouth everywhere they go. Yeah.
yeah, like it's a issue that Leonard's kind of tired of, right?
Yeah.
Why can't we just come into a town and
Why can't we make friends, not
yeah,
enemies everywhere we go? Yeah.
and therefore, so yeah, like if we're talking about the kind of characters you could even say one's like an anti-hero, or maybe in this situation it's the sidekick and the hero, and the hero's Pip, who's
Mhm.
always starting trouble. Maybe Pip is like, oh, those frilled lizards are always like bad, they're just
Yeah.
bad, right?
They always come
Everywhere
into
we
towns
go.
and bully everybody or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like we can decide what kind of character we want to make
Mhm.
uh these both the frilled lizard could even be end up being when they're a friend after a while. Who knows?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean,
Like
it's a sort of continue on for a multi-page story. Something more could definitely happen or we could find out more, but in the single page, we can tell the story quickly with the, beginning, middle, end. Um, and I do like the little tail bite because I think it kind of takes the trope on its head a bit, which is always this kind of, the Western, they stand there, they duke it out the whole thing. And it's like, this little guy is going to change things up and do something a little unexpected. Uh, and I think that's kind of fun.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, that in that case I can make it so that like uh, both lizards almost look like they're posturing, ready to
Mhm.
like, if I didn't draw like any kind of like a gun or anything on Pip, but we can always add that kind of thing. Um, and
Yeah, they could
then
have other things, things with them, but they're gonna use their internal things in order to have this initial fight, but we don't know where it might have gone to had, Leonard not intervened with the tail bite and ended it quick.
yeah, so make this character a little bit bigger, um, kind of taller, like so. Yeah, going back again to just the very basics, we've got this can be considered an action scene, but it's also an establishing shot,
Mhm.
right? Because it's giving us right away where we are, which is some kind of Western town. The next shot is an action shot. The third one can be an action, but it is a close up too, because we're
Yep.
seeing the emotional energy, the anger from Pip,
Yep.
and then the one below that could be another action shot because they're just screaming at each other. Um, and then this one below that is another close up, but it's a close up and action, right? So there's nothing it doesn't mean that when I say close up action and establishing that they have to be pure. They could
Mhm.
be combinations, but they should be there in on that page just so you're it doesn't every page doesn't have to have that, but it's a good way for you to create like a good formula for yourself to make sure you're hitting those points. Because if you forget, and after a while it's all action, 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 the reader is they're going to get tired of it. Like it's really for
100%.
variety. I guess if
Yeah.
the better way to put it is you're giving somebody establishing is giving like time, place, environment, all those things. It's feeding the reader information as to like, okay, I know where we are. The action shot is getting the reader into the story. They're like,
Yes.
like feeling the punch or the jump or whatever it is. And then you've got that close up, which is an emotional beat that makes the reader feel what the character is feeling. And so
Yes.
those things together make for a captivating page. If you end up skipping one or two of them and you just have pure action throughout like a like you 5 pages, that's okay as long as you maybe had it prior, and then you're going to have it again after. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, the reader, you're putting them on like this roller coaster ride, but if it's only going up, 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 or down, 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 the reader gets used to that, and there's the variety
Absolutely.
of it kind of falls flat, I guess, and the lack of variety falls flat.
No, for sure, and like you said, like, if if we're everything's just a medium shot of all the action, that is also, gets boring really quickly. So this feels like we're, going in and out of it, telling a story and covering a lot of ground, which is also when changing, the type of shots and the framing helps you move quicker through a story, right? Because we can cut some time and go, close up, and then when we come back out, time has passed, right? So it allows us to make a few more jumps in order to get our story across without having to spend 4 pages on it. Because truly, this could be, a very drawn out thing if we wanted it, but by doing these types of shots in this way, we can condense it into that single page.
Yeah, exactly. So it just at the end of the day, you want your reader to be engaged in some
Absolutely.
capacity, and um, having a formula to use to make sure that that happens,
Mhm.
right, is really helpful. But when you really get good at doing this, when you start to understand exactly what you're trying to achieve with each page in the story as a whole, right? So if you go to our other show, which has The Door, which is
Mhm.
it's a 6 page horror story, you see that we've if you watch either the full episodes or recaps, you'll see that we're going through a stage of thumbnails, and those thumbnails are just the very quick, loose drawings. What you've seen me do here, where I'm trying to figure out from the story that Sarah created or the script Sarah created from the story that we created together,
Mhm.
like what um the best way to tell the overarching story is. What's the best way to break down the time and the pace
Mhm.
of it and the emotional state of it. And you may need to do a couple variations or a few variations of that thumbnail to figure that out. And when you put them next to each other, the thumbnails, you'll see, if you go watch The Door, you'll see I put them all together so you can actually see how it moves across the story in a very quick way, and therefore you'll know, okay, I know I'm giving the audience a certain kind of story here, and it's like a blueprint, right, for what the story's going to be, and that's really important for you as the creator to make sure that you are filling in those beats properly and making a really interesting visual of lots of different variety and stuff like that.